This episode is sponsored by Estruzi Golf. Hey coach, I know you're a golf nerd like me. I have another data point you're going to want to hear. This time we are talking about retail revenue at your course or club. Here's the data, brought to you by Estruzi. According to the PGA of America, lesson takers spend 79% more on retail than non-lesson takers. Stick around to learn how much new retail revenue your business is adding to your course and you are not getting credit for.
It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1. No touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Hello everyone and welcome to the Golf Guru Show. I'm your host, Jason Sutton, and I am the Guru, where it is my job to interview high performers in the teaching and coaching business in all fields of study, teasing out their instructional and daily habits that make them successful and make these people great, and things that you can apply to your own lives. We're at over 170 or so episodes and counting, so I have covered a lot of ground and had so many great legendary coaches on here. But this episode is a little different, as I am recording with my great friend and top coach, teacher of tour players, and U.S. junior golf coach, and all-around great guy, and a legend in his own mind, Mr. Jake Thurm. You can follow Jake on all socials and all platforms at Jake Thurm Golf, as he is a must-follow. So we are calling this spinoff of the Golf Guru Show, the Hitting It Sideways Golf Show, where the goal was to come together every couple of months, discuss not only teaching topics, what we are doing with our players, etc., but our combined love for movies, book ideas, life and personal growth hacks, some fitness ideas, and what we're doing to kind of stay in shape and stay healthy, and a lot more that's on the table. There were mentions of the importance of manscaping, shaving my knee for pain patches, to the Mexican anti-inflammatory gel that I'm using to apply to my knee for knee pain, to a lot of other shenanigans and laughs as we get deeper into the wine goggles. This format stemmed from our last visit to the podcast, which Jake came to visit me when I was in Charlotte a few years ago, where we just chopped it up, drank a bunch of wine, and just sat on the couch and just went through a lot of stuff. So we decided to make it our version of the random show. So regardless, we had a great time catching up, sharing ideas. I think there's some really good teaching information here, as well as a lot of other cool stuff, stories while we're drinking some really good wine, and clearly getting a little sideways or tipsy for sure by the end of this almost 2.5 hours of the kickoff show, in which I'm going to split these into 2 parts. So this is the first part of the episode, and the second part will come out in another week or so. So I hope you enjoy this first attempt at hitting it sideways while getting sideways golf show with my good friend, the brilliant, entertaining Jake Thurm. Enjoy.
How are you?
I'm good. That's pretty fancy right there.
Well, like I was telling you, it vibrates, so my wife likes it.
Hopefully she'll never listen to the show. Yeah.
Who's going to listen to the show?
Probably nobody. Yeah. Cheers, my man.
Yeah. What are you drinking there, Jason? It's good to see you.
Good to see you, man. Because, our movie / theme from the Hitting It Sideways golf show is going to be sideways. We had to drink wine.
Absolutely.
I was close to throwing some tequila out because that's pretty much all I've been drinking lately. Pretty light.
Is that why you're looking so svelte?
Yeah, I'm trying. I got a long ways to go. But yeah, I'm in honor of Giamatti and the Pinot speech. I've got a Pinot from Robert Sinsky Vineyards, which is a Napa for sure.
Yeah.
First time. My girl that I go shop with said, you've got to try this one. Because I drink, a lot of cabs and a lot of other types of reds. But What do you got?
I also have a cab. I have a 2015 Corzine from Napa, a cab. And I was just finishing that one off because I usually don't have this guy.
Yeah.
That's when you know my wife hit the wine. And then the other thing, I got another cab, a 2016 from Rich Harvest Farms. So they had me out for their cocktail party. I teach half their membership and all that kind of stuff. So
Cool.
Every single guest gets a bottle of wine from the Rich Harvest Vineyard. So I thought that would be appropriate because I'm not fucking drinking Merlot.
That's exact. I almost got a bottle of Merlot just because of that being great. Yeah, like that movie sent Merlot into the tank, for real. And Pinot was on the rise. My other one that I brought was a new one too from Faust in Napa. That is really good.
How do you feel about Merlot?
I think there's some good Merlots out there. I think it was just...
I totally agree.
It was just the thing, right? If you do, as we've both done sort of research on the show, one, Paul Giamatti knew nothing about wine in real life. And two, it was just part of the script, part of the book, because it was from a book.
Right.
And, sideways meant, they were getting shit-faced. It was basically what was
which is basically what we're doing, Jason.
Yeah, exactly. We're on our way now. This is our first classes to the listeners out there, but
it's so great to hear your voice. Should we tell the people out that first before we get into the movie, before we get into the golf, before we get into my Chicago golf shirt here and how I played so bad there I wanted to anally digest my driver? Before we do that,
yes.
Can we talk about how many breakfast balls it took for us to get on air?
Yeah. Tell them.
So
it's a shit show.
So for a while, I've been hearing from my friends that their favorite podcast that I have done, and I've done a few, was yours, and it was the second one,
right?
And that's the one I didn't put on my website. And I go, why do you like that one? And he goes, well, you guys, one, are obviously great friends, which we could tell the story of how we met, like when Harry met Sally, when Jason met Jake. And then the other thing is everyone remarked that it felt like hanging out with us because we were obviously overserved. So, yeah.
That was, I put that out for those that haven't caught up with the podcast as an archive in the last 3 or 4 months where I've been not on sabbatical. I'm still doing my thing, busy with other things that we can kind of talk about other than teaching. But I started putting together some of my favorite sort of moments of the pod. And that first hour that we did that, which was basically me and you on the couch drinking wine. We had several drinks prior to that and dinner and everything else. I mean, to me, I thought it was some of the best, just awesome conversation because it was just real. Like the guy would say, it was raw. And so this is how this show sort of came about, right? It's like this, we wanted to do a spinoff, sort of a segue from the Golf Guru show. But if anybody listens to Tim Ferriss, I'll give him a little bit of credit, but him and his friend Kevin Rose do a random show, right? Where they get together once every 6 months or so, and they just kind of catch up on different topics and things that they're doing in their lives and then just shoot the shit. So that's kind of how it came about. But continue and tell like the struggles technically that we've had in the last week.
I just came up with the fact that I think anytime anyone sees me or yourself take a sip, if they are watching this, they need to take a sip.
Yeah.
And then it gets a hell of a lot more fucking funny. So my buddies, especially from college, who are my closest friends, I'm always the little person in the pictures with them wearing flamingos and cigars and all that because they were all college basketball players. But anyways, they go, how in the world with everyone having a podcast, do you not have a podcast? To me, personally. And then they reference yours. And the reason they say that, and I don't know if I told you this, and if I've told you this, I don't think I told you this on the pod.
I think you did.
Okay. The reason they say that is because...
we're just on the phone.
Because I had a college radio show when I was there. And it was entitled, Where the High School Girls Hang Out. And so...
It's original.
Yeah. And it's a line from Swingers where Vince Vaughn is drunk and making an ass out of himself, which, I'm guilty of from time to time. And he pretends he's getting kicked on her table. He goes, oh, fine. You want me to ask her? I'll ask her. Ma'am, where the high school girls hang out around here. So
was that the diner scene?
It's the diner scene where he gets on top and he's like, you know, and
he's like,
and I don't mean
he's
to turn
all grown up.
And I don't mean to turn this into it because we're going to talk more sideways today, but I did write down in my notes of how much, upon viewing Sideways again more extensively, how much it actually reminds me of Mikey and Trent, Miles and Jack. But anyways, going with the initial thing. Yeah. So things have changed since I went to college and had a radio show, namely this little microphone right here, right?
Yeah.
This looks like something
that I purchased for you for Christmas.
Thank you for that. And I'm also wearing the underwear you got me. So
of course.
I'm just kidding. I don't wear underwear. So anyways, I have a laptop that's probably Stone Age compared to what you're rocking in there behind you and all that kind of stuff. So I went through every setting, every Google. We spent 2 hours last week trying to figure it out. And right here, Jason.
Yeah.
This was turned up so loud that all I could do is hear myself, which is exactly how my wife says I argue. So if I just turned it down a little bit, it was picking up every frickin' sound in the house except you speaking. And that's all it was. That's all it was.
That's it. Yeah. So we spent 2 hours of me just like miming him, trying to figure out why the first time ever that my guest can't hear me. How the other way around.
How many fucking swing coaches does it take to figure out a microphone? Okay.
That's unbelievable. Jeez. Oh gosh. So you want to start with your life stuff, like what you've been up to?
Sure.
Get any topics? I mean, we can kind of.
Well, I did tease anally digesting my driver.
Oh, so you?
Yeah, I was going to feed my ass my driver. Yeah.
Okay.
So here's the thing. So again, it's topical. I'm wearing the hoodie here. So I played Chicago golf, one of the hardest. You would think a kid from Chicago can get on at Chicago golf whenever he wants. And it's notoriously one of the hardest courses to get on. I have had the good fortune of playing it multiple times. Streelman used to be a caddy out there. I was a caddy at Butler. He was a caddy at Chicago Golf. We're no dummies, right? And we figured out on Mondays how to play when no one's looking, right? So anyways, it's been a while. I don't think I played there in 15 years. And this will lead to my question of you because I'm not sure.
Here we go.
I'm not sure I know, right? So anyways, I heard one of my kids that you see is doing so well in Division III. He was like third in the country and all that. He goes, it's Saturday. He goes, I'm playing Chicago Golf. And we're out at Ruffled and I'm looking at his swing. I go, that's like holy ground out there. That's a special place. I go, enjoy it. I go, anytime I play it, I don't know if that's the last time I play it. And he goes, oh, cool. You have any advice for me? And I'm like, well, you're going to putt off one green. He goes, number one green? I go, yeah, actually, you could putt off that one. I putt right into the front bunker. Yeah, right in front of the front row. I go, but at least one hole, you're going to putt off the green. That's just the way it is. And so anyways, we got talking. He's a hell of a stick. He can get it up to 134 miles an hour club head speed and just beats the shit out of the ball like all these kids do nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was told to massage the ball around the course and boy, did I fucking listen. So anyways, it came as a text message about 9 hours ahead of that tee time going, one of our people bailed out. Do you want to play?
Oh,
I mean, this is like Margot Robbie in a tub, right? So I'm sitting there going,
what do you got that day? Like you got lessons all day or what was?
I got lessons all day. Yeah. That is not the concern here.
It's kind of like getting the Augusta call, right?
Right.
It's like you shut it down. Like you're going to, it's an easy email to send, easy text message to send. Hey, I'm going to.
Half my clients that I said, hey, I'm going out to Chicago Golf were like, totally get it. Have fun.
Yeah.
Best place on earth.
Yeah.
That wasn't the dilemma. The dilemma was that I hadn't played golf in 2.5 months. And outside of maybe like a pitching wedge and sand wedges on par 3 courses with my kids, and now I'm going to go play. And I'm sitting there going, and it's windier and shit. It's always windier and shit out of Chicago. And I'm sitting there going, fuck it. You know, I could shoot 90 anywhere. I might as well do it there. So I go out. And one of my favorite things to do is when I occasionally do, here's the only ways to get me on the golf course is you got to take me to a top 100 golf course or I'm playing par 3s with my boys or I'm drunk in a flamingo shirt with my college buddies. That's the only ways. Otherwise, actually, the answer is no. I don't miss it a lot. So so I say sure. And I mean, I proceed to go bunker to bunker on the first hole. That was good. Plugged both times. How do you double plug? And I mean, that sounds like something you can Google. But and it was awful. But the best I did was in the pro shop when I took home like a shit ton of merchandise, again, because I'm sitting there going, I never know when I'm about to show up. So here's my question for you. And again, I'm sure like this kid and his dad is like, why the fuck do we take that kid to him? I mean, look how bad he hit it, right? So my question to you is, Jason, do you still love golf? Playing your golf game, not teaching, not being around, not what your kid's doing, your golf game. Do you love it?
No.
Me neither.
I don't. Yeah. And it's weird to hear from your students. I told this to a student the other day during a lesson, or we were riding like from my building to the short game area or something like that. And he's like, do you ever get to play? And it's like, that's not the question.
Yeah.
It's not, do you ever get to play? I could play every day. I'd go broke, right? I mean, it costs a lot of money for me to play golf because that's 4 or 5 hours for me to not teach. But that's not really it. It's just, I'm so competitive. Like when I was an assistant and then a head pro, and even at the beginning of my teaching career, I could still play pretty good. And I can still play really good for a guy that never practices. But it just doesn't like get me going as, the way it used to. I need like something to play in, right? Like I'll play in a couple of our member tournaments. We have a couple things that the pros will play in. And if I know I'm going to play in that, I'll hit a few balls or whatever and kind of get going. But just to go play golf, like I just don't get jazzed up about it.
You play with your boy?
Yeah. That's about the only time. Yeah. Before he moved, when he turned pro and moved to Nashville, and I don't see him as much, I'll go play with him and, grab a couple of members or a couple other tour guys or whatever and go play. Cause then I'm playing against him. Then it's kind of fun, but it's just spending time with him which is really precious at this point.
Out of college, 1,000 years ago, I would have told you that I got no time for these scrambles that everybody plays. And by the way, usually when it is scramble season, the cart covers are coming out, the propane heaters. And I go, gosh, that right there, your golf cart right there tells me how much I don't want to play today. Right. So, and then my buddies, again, are all former college athletes. Again, 6'8", 6'7", all college basketball players, some college baseball players. They are now so into fucking golf. It's amazing. It's amazing. And they're so furious that they're not better at this because they probably came from small towns where they were the best at everything, 3 sport athletes, all that. And they are so frustrated that they're not better at this. And yet this is all they want to do with their life. So they're like, well, there's these pro-am scrambles. Like, why don't you be our pro? And I'm sitting there going, guys, if you'd like to win, you got to do a hell of a lot better than me. Right. Yeah. And they're like, well, we don't care. We don't care. Now the funniest thing is this, I do mean this. This is like a full-time gig for some people. Like I played in this thing at Sandy Pines just the past week, and I go there and one of my Corn Ferry guys is in the field and one of my long drive guys is in the field. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm just welled up with confidence right now.
Yeah. What is the indoor thing that I keep seeing you posting about of your like team? Like, what's that deal? Like, you're hitting balls into a simulator apparently a lot. I see that shit on Instagram all the time.
I would rather go bowling, but not these guys. So my kids train the USA junior team. They train indoors at X Golf Downers Grove in the winter. And they have league nights there and everything. And we're already there. Like we're filing the kids out. We're usually having a drink afterwards and stuff. And they're like, well, you should play. And I'm like, well, I'm a pro. I don't want to freaking hear about it. I go, I'm not much of a pro. And I go and I'm looking at the ball speeds in here. And I'm like, you guys shouldn't be worried about me. I mean, hell, a simulator golf league takes away the one thing I can do, chip and putt, right? So my buddies see this and they're like, and it's the guys that I'm always with. And I will tell you the team, CKLMC, which stands for Captain Kevin Landeck Memorial Cup. So anytime we get together, we play for my buddy that was killed in Iraq. So that's what that is. But you are not Streelman's brutal when he sees, you win your little scramble indoor golf league. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's actually kind of funny. It's 9 holes. It's a 3-man and it's a scramble and you got to use everybody's tee shot once and you got to get it inside 4 feet. So the funniest thing is I thought I would hate that too, but amazingly fireball shots after the second hole do a lot to help you enjoy it. And then actually staying loose during the winter. I always get invited on this. Like right around my birthday, I have this client who actually just texted me. I saw that, Greg, who invites me to Shadow Creek. And he started, it's around the Super Bowl, but they've started calling it like my birthday. Like it's my birthday golf trip. So February, the last time I've probably seen a ball outside is usually October or September. But hitting balls into a screen in the middle of winter in Chicago actually helps. It actually, I wasn't that fucking bad when I went to Shadow. And it's just, have you been to Shadow Creek?
No, I would love to go. I mean, for a lot of reasons.
Dude.
The casinos, the whole,
Dude.
I know how they treat the clients, give you the shuttle wherever you want to go. Like, I would probably never come home.
My caddy
I had a problem.
Well, so hopefully your wife's not listening to this.
Yeah, she doesn't. She would never listen to this.
No, why? This is pointless. So my caddy was named Johnny Utah.
Nice.
So we're getting from Point Break. He's named Johnny Utah, who apparently has all the good weed. I did not know that. So and they walk around with these boom boxes. I mean, and you're out there on in the middle of the frickin' desert, which you don't feel like you're in the desert because of the design. They moved a ton of frickin' dirt, but yet it feels very natural. It's a top 100 golf course. And what they say is there is no at Shadow. So if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. There's no parking lot. You can only come up in a limo. Every president that's still alive's got a locker in there and all that. And actually, I know you. So if the wives are listening, I know they're thinking, hookers and blow, but it's actually these, and away we go. Yeah. It's actually these sweet older ladies that work there. One is named Rita, who has a margarita named after her. And there's another lady in the shop, like these very sweet older women who just roll their eyes at you, because I'm sure it's just debauchery consistently in there. Yeah. And then the last time I was there, you're a country music guy, aren't you?
I am now with my wife.
You kind of have to.
My son lives in Nashville. Yeah. I mean, so I'm indoctrinated. Oh. So I'm getting into it.
God. So I didn't know who this was. So it can't be a name drop if I have no idea who the fuck this is. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I still don't. I'm going to say it's Luke Bryan, but I'm probably wrong. That's probably a tour player from 1984. Who's the guy on American Idol that was a judge?
That's Luke Bryan.
Okay, Luke Bryan. All right.
Yeah.
So he was sitting at the bar, and there is no at Shadow. Okay.
Yeah.
At no point did I not have a Tito's in my hand, even when it would go away, and then it would be there again.
Would appear
every time. So I felt good, and I don't know. I saw some guy there, and I was just like. And hey, did you play today? And he goes, yeah. And I go, this is my 3rd or 4th time. I go, this place is unbelievable. And he's like, yeah, I'm just a redneck. He goes, it's way too nice for me. And we just talked the whole time. So I get back to the limo and the guys go, oh, you enjoying your best friend over there, Luke Bryan? And I'm like, who the hell is Luke Bryan? And he goes, the guy you were talking to, or Brian. Okay, see?
Not even. I don't think there's a T on the end.
I could have been talking to Bart Bryant. Okay, I could have been talking to Dr. Dirt. I don't know. Could have been J. Don Blake. I have no idea. So Luke Bryan.
I'm pretty sure it's Bryan.
Okay, well, I'm sure.
I'm not an expert in country music, but I think that's what it is.
I'm sure he's sure. So they're like, yeah, you're talking to your best friend over there at Luke Bryan, and I go, who's Luke Bryan? And they go, oh, he's a country singer. I'm like, I go, that's why I have no fucking idea. I go, because that's where the talentless go to sing. So they're like, well, he's also a judge on American Idol. And I go, with Simon Cowell? And they're like, dude, Simon Cowell hasn't been on American Idol in like 15 years. So
he took his place.
Yeah. Oh, he took his place. Okay, so there you go.
I think, I mean, he's like, it's Katy Perry and Lionel Richie.
I know there's a lot of country fans out there, and I will say this. Luke Bryan did not feel the need to tell me he was Luke Bryan at any point. So you know what? Great dude. Awesome. Loves golf.
That's so cool.
He did not want to be made a big deal of, and he probably enjoyed my drunk ass not knowing who the hell he was.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, if he's not like a fanboy, then he was probably cool.
Yeah, but it's far from like. I like a Garth Brooks song, but I think that's the one everyone likes at the wedding, right? Friends in Low Places. Like, other than that,
I've started to get into it, man. It's like, again, I'm like, I'm hearing, like not 24/7 when I'm around my kids or my son and my wife. But again, now he lives in Nashville. I mean, he's all up in the middle of it. I mean, he's friend. There's a new guy that's kind of coming out called George Burge. He's really, really good. We actually went and saw him in Charleston.
George Burge,
yeah.
Burge.
He's an up-and-coming superstar. He actually toured with Luke Bryan this summer and a couple other guys, but he's buddies with him. He's buddies with a couple other guys over there that, Old Hickory. Have you ever heard of that place in Nashville? It's like a high-end place that like John Daly's a member and a bunch of country stars.
Yes, yeah. I've heard that.
Yeah. He played there and he's trying to get out there to practice, but
So I can go one country guy who I am then told, well, he's not really country. Because I've been at the Waste Management, I've been to Dierks Bentley, and he's the drunk on a plane guy. I learned that night because that's, he headed up and I was like, that's kind of catchy. And then Brantley Gilbert, and I couldn't tell you a song he sings. But I took a picture with him and then I posted it. You're going to have to go way, way back on Instagram. And I go, is this a big deal? I'm like, because I don't know who this is, right? So, and then everybody's just...
I don't even know who that is.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
so
I just know the main guys.
So the guy I played golf with at Chicago Golf, and actually that day I looked like I had swung a club in my life, was Colt Ford. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he does a little rap and country or something.
He actually played. Then he played golf at Texas.
He played
college.
at Georgia.
Oh, Georgia. Okay, I knew he played in college. He's still a pretty good player.
Wish I would have known that when he asked me to play for something that day.
Yeah, he can play.
I told John Guyton, the head pro at Chicago Golf, who actually, so he's and he's skinnier now, but he was 400 damn pounds, right?
Yeah.
And he was wearing cargo shorts. And you don't do that at Chicago Golf. So he's like, oh my God, we got to change his shorts. But how are we going to find shorts that fit a 350 pound man who's only 5'7", right? So Guyton's sitting there going like this. I'm sitting there. He goes, hey, you want to play for something? I'm like, sure, right? And he didn't look like much.
Fat Perez.
Yes, Fat Perez, right? So, dude, like I said, I played like I had played before and shot 74. And this asshole shot 68 or 9 and cleaned my clock 3 different ways, but actually had me at the concert that night and Guyton. Yeah, it was a good time. But cool. Finding a 300-pound man something other than cargo. I mean, basically, he asked him. He goes, and it was so hot that day too. He actually asked him, "Do you have rain gear with you?" Like,
oh my God!
You're like, you're gonna make him wear rain gear on a 94-degree day, just to cover it up. So
yeah. Shoot, I've seen just this year. I've seen Riley Green in Savannah. I've seen Hardy. I'm trying to think, and they were with a couple other kind of up and coming. Lainey Wilson was with Hardy touring. So I've seen some pretty big country shows.
I'm just going to keep nodding. I'm just
you don't know.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Riley Green's pretty strong.
Okay.
So,
good.
Yeah.
Let me guess. Is one song about his tractor?
Yeah, I think maybe. About his truck, maybe.
A truck? How about his dog, Jason? Does he sing about his dog?
Maybe. Probably does. Okay. Yeah, he's got some good stuff.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd rather listen to that than anything by Nickelback. That's also a joke, yeah. Though I'll tell you what, I'll pay Nickelback a compliment because they are like my little kicking post. But I do like the song, which, by the way, they all sound the same. So I have to base it off the title. You look better with something in your mouth. That is my favorite Nickelback song. Okay. Not because I think it sounds just like Photograph or whatever the hell else. And it's just for the title. You look better with something in your mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Too much.
That should be on a Hallmark card.
For sure.
Yeah.
What else is going on? What like in your professional life, personal life? I mean, we're going to do a gig together. I've invited you to come down to the Carolinas and speak at the Fall Summit. I'm not sure it's a favor or an honor or it's a lot of work, but I'm the chairman now for the section teaching and coaching committee.
How long does that last? How long is
2 years?
You have to do it for 2 years.
Yeah, 2-year stint.
Like Ryder Cup.
I've been on the committee. Yeah, I've been on the committee since the beginning. But it's the first time I've actually been in charge.
So this is extra work for you without extra pay.
Correct. Yeah, this is all volunteer. Yeah. Which is, it's it's kind of selfless work. But I mean, we enjoy doing it. And I will say, going back to the golf thing, it's not that we don't love golf. I still love golf. I love watching great players play. I still watch it on TV. Just don't really particularly want to play golf, right? Yeah. There's a difference. It's not that I don't want people to get the wrong idea that I love the game. I'm still curious and fascinated by everything that has to do with what we do as on a day-to-day basis. But it's like, I just don't really care.
I watched
to go out and play.
I actually don't watch golf either, but I did watch the Utah Championship or the Black Desert Championship.
Yeah, well, your guy was in contention.
He was in contention. So that's fun because it's like the crucible for a tour coach, right?
I wouldn't say it's fun. Yeah. It is. It's just nerve-wracking, man. It's just, gosh.
Like everybody knows this with the DraftKings and laying bets and all that kind of stuff. It's that to another level. And I'm, yes, it financially impacts me, but at the same time, when you spend more time with an individual than you do your own spouse, especially with him, there's the personal side with him. So no amount of money he better not be listening. Hey, by the way, he wanted to come on the show and I told him no.
We talked about it. I said, "Do you want to bring Strills on?" He goes, "No, I'd spend enough time with that guy. I'm not bringing him on."
Exactly.
Sometime.
Can I have one fucking thing in golf that has nothing to do with him? I was asked about him the other day and I go, who's that? I don't know. Well, don't you coach him? I'm like, I don't know. I coach a lot of guys. So
what's he look like?
Yeah.
So that's great, man. That's a big, that gets him into more fall events. It's like my guy McGirt. They're still kind of fighting to hang in there and getting kind of pushed out with the new format and smaller fields.
They should have their own podcast. These over 40 guys, outside the top 50 in the world on the PGB team, bitching about how this has transpired over the past few years. When they were, with the careers that they've had, they were good until everybody changed the rules as they went.
Yeah.
So
they're still good. It's just there's only so many spots every week, and
right.
It's kind of frustrating. Yeah, I got guys on both ends. I got Will, and then I got Brian Campbell that just got his tour card off the Corn Ferry. It's going to play next year, so he's going to get probably more starts than some of my other guys. So, right. which is super exciting. But yeah, it's changing. I don't know if we want to go into too much of that, like get us in trouble, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes, as you probably hear.
Yeah, so
I hear that from my guys that people don't really know.
Kev's, and I'm sworn to secrecy, but Kev's, it's pretty known that he's been on the players board and all that kind of stuff. Charlie Hoffman was last year and stuff too. And I know the Seagull a little bit. I saw him out at TPI when I was out there. So yeah, it's to be a fly on the wall there is regardless of what side you're on or where you're at with PGA Tour, with Live, with older play, out with the old, in with the new, wherever you're at on it and stuff. It's just interesting to hear. Listen, everybody's commenting from their pocketbook, right? Like, that's what's happening. Like, everybody is making decisions and making comments based on their pocketbook. Probably like the vote we're going to have in about 30 days for the country, right? I'm guessing most people are just going to vote with their pocketbook. So, and that's what's going on with PGA Tour players, Live players, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So
for sure.
Yeah, no, I kind of stay out of it. I've coached some live guys too. And some of that's died down. At first, I didn't kind of know what to make of it. And then I put it on a story. And this would be fun. I should show this guy took out a 3-page email in a text message to tell me essentially that I am a communist and a murderer. I won't say his name.
No, I mean, you're talking about your
a
player?
Follower. Yeah.
Oh, a follower.
Yeah.
Okay.
A follower.
Oh, because you teach a live player.
Yeah. So
who do you teach on live?
And then, we won't talk about that right now. But
okay.
So I posted a picture of my youngest son, Ashton, with Phil Mickelson. And all I put was just a couple of lefties, right? Because my youngest is a lefty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, did I get lit up by 2 or 3 people that I was anti-American, that I was supporting people responsible for 9/11. And I'm just sitting there going,
come on.
That's my he wasn't even 5 in that picture. I think he still had a binky in. So he was probably 2 or 3 or something like that. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do, man? As Clint Eastwood said, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, right? So,
yeah.
And again, everybody's going to just tell you from their perspective and their pocketbook.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what else is going on? What else you got?
Well, I was going to ask you, how long you been, is it Colton River? Is that how it's pronounced and everything like that?
Colleton River, which
actually, again, sounds like a country album. So, or at least a song on a country album.
A little bit.
I have not been down there. I guess I still won't be down there because I'm going to Pinehurst, right? So how far a drive is that for you?
5.5 hours.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a shit drive. Yeah. It's not fun. Yeah, I did the, crazy spring in a good way. When I was asked to speak at the Georgia Teaching Summit, I think it was March maybe or something. Me and Cody did a thing down there in Tattersall. We had some really good speakers. And then we had our award show for our section award show, shortly after that. And then I get asked to speak at the Sun Country Teaching Summit, which is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the guy called me and I was like, yeah, I'd be glad to do it. When is it? And he tells me the date, and it's the day after the award show, the day in between our award show and our basically big teaching summit and our merchandise show. So think about that. So I said, I don't want to say no because I would love to do it. And I said, if you can figure out how to get me from Greensboro on that, whatever it was, Sunday night from the awards, Monday morning, he's like, yeah, we'll fly you in. So I flew all over the place, 4 different connections to get to Albuquerque, did my 2 or 3 hours of speaking, and got back on a plane at midnight, Albuquerque time, flew to, I think it was Scottsdale maybe or something. And then I flew to Philly, and then one more connection, and then back to Greensboro the next morning. So I took the red eye and then went to our TG Summit, which was 2 or 3 hours, 4 hours, and then drove back that night.
What'd you talk about?
That was crazy. In my talk at the New Mexico thing?
Yeah.
Teaching elite players.
Okay.
So I went through all the stuff I did with Brian and Will McGirt, and then all my 3 or 4 of my top juniors and college players or whatever. And then did some talked about short game stuff that I teach.
Cool.
So it's about a 2 or 3 hour talk, with a lot of pictures and stuff.
Where did you sit on I don't know what to call each side of the spectrum, so I'll just say Ridyard and Mayo, just to pull 2 names out. Well, where did you sit? Yeah. Where did you sit on that?
So that was actually one of my teaching topics that I had in my notes.
I had a feeling it might be.
Teaching. Yeah. So Steve versus Shallow. No, it would be more I would say Parker McLaughlin is on one side, and then Joe Mayo's on the other side as far as steep and shallow. Then I would say me and James Ridyard are kind of in the middle.
Right.
Yeah. And again, it depends. Right. But I think I like the way Joe sort of makes the case with the math of impact and vertical swing plane and all the sort of the parameters that we talk about for, let's say, a stock little wedge shot around the green. So I would say I would probably I wouldn't say I favor steep. I mean, I guess you got to define it, right? It's like, what's steep? And like, we can go deep into the technique stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk fashion, folks. The average golfer spends $700 per year on retail, meaning golfers who take lessons spend $1,253 per year on retail. If a golf coach sees 200 players per year, those players are adding $250,600 in additional revenue in retail per year because of you. If knowledge is power, you just become more knowledgeable. The next step is taking action with this newfound power to create change. Estruzi is the only golf coach business management platform built to the specific needs of you and I, the solopreneur golf coaches. A bunch of you already created an account. Download the link in the show notes or head to estruzi.com. When you create your account, don't forget to add the asterisk to your last name so they know the guru sent you. Now let's get back to the show.
I just thought it was fascinating because, I spoke at Open Forum last year.
Yeah,
I thought it was fascinating. And honestly, that happened right after me. Like, I get off stage, because I was up there speaking with John Sinclair. I leave the stage, Sinclair stays, and Joe and everything comes up. So it happened immediately after. So I went off the stage and to the bar, and then double fisted came back in the front row. And I'm just like, I leaned to, and it could have been Chase Cooper. I can't remember exactly. Erica was there in all her glory. But I remember leaning to whoever was next to me and going, oh my God, we've been arguing for an hour and 15 minutes how to make a ball go from here to there, like 10 feet. I go, ain't golf grand. I go, that allegedly the brightest minds in the world of golf instruction are in this room fighting tooth and nail on the best way to make a ball go 10 feet. I love it.
Or farther.
Or further. Or shorter.
No, I mean, I think it started with John, really, if you think about it.
Yes.
I mean, the first time, and I mean, we can go in a lot of different rabbit holes here, but the way we perceive technique in these particular shots in golf now, in my opinion, has changed a lot in the last 15 years, right? We're talking about throwing the bounce at the ground and
Seekman.
How we're like trying to hit the ground before the ball, which I understand does happen on some shots. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying I put on my sort of Captain Logic hat the way I teach. And it's really I wouldn't say it's new information, but I've really dug into a lot of stuff that Joe's talking about. And James Rudyard's been a huge mentor to me as far as short game goes. And we have a lot of discussions, and I've learned so much from him. But in the low country where, I mean, we've got some of the grainiest approaches that you'll ever find. And if you can chip it around our greens, you can chip it anywhere.
Right.
And you better be hitting the golf ball first before the ground, or you will suck.
Amen.
Okay. I can tell you that right now. So, and I can assure you, you're not hitting the golf. When you might hit the golf ball first with that backwards handle, but you're going to be hitting it over the green in the marsh. So you better have some forward shaft lean. You better understand center of mass versus center of pressure. You better understand how the pivot works, and you better understand how the good players hit down reasonably a lot and then don't take divots and get it out of the ground, right? So all that stuff I teach every day. I mean, to different level players, but a lot of guys are coming to me now just for short game stuff, just from what they see me doing on Instagram. But I mean, it's nothing that probably nobody out there already knows, but you might think they know, but they don't, right?
I was at the Rocket Mortgage, and I was talking to our buddy JG, John Graham, and I asked where Ridyard and his biceps were.
Yeah.
Because I had a feeling I might see the biceps or the pectorals before I saw him, right? So, holy shit, is he on the cream or the clear? I mean, geez Louise.
He just trains like crazy. Like, we stayed together at the PGA show last year.
Yeah.
And he was in the gym every morning, and he was running. When I was running a lot. I was getting ready for a half marathon. And
I saw that. How did that go, by the way? Have you ever done that before?
Oh, yeah. It's like probably my 10th.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I've run 3 full marathons and probably 10 or 11 half marathons.
I run to the bathroom twice a night.
Yeah, it's nothing new. It's just, I hadn't done it for a while, but that's a whole nother story. I've got some injuries and some knee issues I'm dealing with right now. So I'm a frustrated, depressed runner, but we can get into that later.
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, when I teach short game now, it's like, depending if it's a pretty high level player, I'll always bring TrackMan out there because I want to show them what's happening. How are we delivering the club into the ball? And for the most part, most players are too shallow, from what I've seen. And when I say too shallow, I'm talking like guys are hitting chip shots at, hitting 2 degrees down.
Low point, almost back. Or
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think, and this is for, not just the coaches out there, but just explain this to players, is when we talk about steep and shallow, it's not just swing direction, shaft pitch, right? What controls the down part is handle location for the most part, right? It's like, if the handle moves backwards, then the low point's going to move backwards and you're going to be shallower. So you can come in with a very steep VSP, like a lot of our chops out there, and then dump your wrist angles, and then you can be shallow at the bottom, right? So there's kind of two ways to look at it.
And also there's this common habit so tour players usually do too much of a good thing. Right? We can agree on that. So a lot of times especially when you're dealing with an elite level ball striker, right? If they're an elite level ball striker, trust me, that gets into their short game, whether they want it to or not. Some of them actually still subscribe to the theory that it's just a small golf swing. I digress, right? But at the same time, a lot of them who are such geniuses with the leading edge get the hand super forward at impact, which will take their upper center and tilt it way back, which becomes its own issue too. So
it doesn't have to, though.
It doesn't have to. That's the thing.
I don't think the handle forward doesn't create the right bend. I think the right bend, because this was me chipping always coming up until I learned this stuff, is I used to right bend and not know it because we're trying to get our pressure forward. So if we don't understand that their center of mass and needs to be on top of our center of pressure when we're chipping, then you're going to right bend. So you better lean the shit out of the handle or you're not going to hit the ball first, right? But you can still have forward shaft lean and get more forward if you teach that. And this is just me, again, because you see how kind of like what Joe does. So he likes to get his guys to go forward pretty early in the backswing is a way. And I think it's super effective. Sometimes I'm just afraid, this is by experience with some of my tour players, is I don't want that to creep into their full swing. Like I don't want to see their upper body start to go full. It can easily get confused. And me and McGirt talk about this all the time. He goes, you're trying to get me to stay closed with my body in full swing, but you're trying to get me to open in the short game. I'm like, yeah. From a player's, that can get confusing, right? From a feel standpoint. So I like to see them move or translate their upper center towards target in conjunction with transition. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you guys can kind of see me in the
100%.
video. Yeah, as opposed to going super early, I have them sort of stay centered or whatever, and then they move slightly towards target.
A lot of people that translate that upper center as they swing the club back in the backstroke actually still have a certain amount of backup through impact. So it doesn't solve the issue. So the issue with that it can, but a lot of them that have this, like you said, center of pressure forward, but upper center of mass moving backwards. The notion is, well, if I get them moving it that way as they swing it back, then everything will be okay. I have not necessarily found that to be the miracle cure for all translators of upper center moving backwards, right? And this gets at, I go always back to one of my original mentors, Suddy, who always talked about kind of lower body dominant players, upper body dominant players, and then obviously a combination of thereof. And you got like Dr. David Wright, who talks about upper core, middle core, lower core, all that kind of stuff. So basically, if you're lower body dominant in your golf swing, probably that's going to kind of creep in there a little bit as you kind of slide the pelvis forward. The funniest thing is the translation forward is not the issue. It's that the upper is not translating forward with the lower, basically seemingly on top. And I'm with you. I'd rather see that in transition as opposed to this idea that I'll just cheat it and everything will be okay.
Yeah. So the difference in this, again, this is just how I explain the short game swing or whatever you want to. I don't like to call pitching chipping. It's all stupid. It's language, right? It's semantics.
Yeah.
It's just a wedge shot. Like you got low wedge shots, you got medium wedge shots, you got high wedge shots from whatever distance. I don't care. But I always say that the difference is in the sequencing, which I think is super important, which is something that James talks about all the time, is the difference in full swing and short game is in full swing, there's clearly separation from the pelvis and the thorax. In short game, we want the pelvis and the thorax to stay pretty much together, right? So I always call that the first horse. So I always say it's a 4-horse race. Your chest, rib cage, center of your body, And let's say your belly button, upper center, lower center, are sort of the first horse. Your second horse is your lead arm. Third horse is your hands. Fourth horse is the club head, right? So they have to sort of work in that order in the downswing, which allows a lot of stuff that's really good to happen. Makes the ball come out slower. It allows you to push, turn, and stand up. All the stuff that helps us to get the club out of the ground and hit the ball. And it,
controls the radius and the low
the
point.
arc height. Yeah, exactly. So controlling the arc height is super important. Controlling the low point is super important. Good players tend to hit it closer to the bottom of the face, which gives us a little bit of vertical gearing that helps with that.
The interesting thing, and I've worked for a few different 3D companies and stuff throughout the years. As we've kind of moved on, it's been markers to markerless and all that kind of stuff. But the interesting thing is that the sequencing is actually very similar to a golf swing, actually exactly similar. It's the deceleration sequence that is not. It's more of this coasting action like you're describing. And that coasting action deprives the club of speed. So that way you control how slow or fast, but in this case, slow, the ball comes off. So thus the player can make a swing. And I don't know how many amateurs are listening to this, but there's so many amateurs that they cannot control the speed that the ball comes off the wedge, which is why they feel like they can't make a swing in the first place.
Right. Well, and that's, because they get everything backwards because they think less movement of the body. So the club accelerates way faster when that happens because now we're throwing energy out into the club sooner. And they can't control their arc height anyway. So when they actually do hit one good, because they're trying to hit down the wrong way, or the handle and the club's going down for too long, the ball runs up the face and it comes out too fast, right? So, we're looking at one of the big metrics I look at when I'm teaching short game is smash factor. And I want that smash factor staying under 1 as much as possible. If it gets over 1, the ball's coming out a little bit hot. Typically, is you're out of sequence or you're hitting it too close to the middle of the club face, which again is sounds crazy, but it's just reality of what these good golfers and good tour players are doing with the golf ball, which is pretty phenomenal.
Which is why, to case in point, why Mickelson wanted the grooves extended to the toe, right? Obviously, again, with that, and I know Ghetto a little bit, his coach, Andrew, but honestly, Andrew, to my knowledge, doesn't do a lot with Phil's short game. But at the same time, and I'm sworn to secrecy on stuff. So all you got, which basically means if I'm ever sworn to secrecy on stuff, just fill me with a bunch of wine and then I'll tell you. That's
what we're trying to do. You need to be drinking more, by the way.
No,
You're way behind.
I'm not going to tell you on this, but I will say that you've seen this so many times. Some of the great short game players that you've been around taught is that there is that little, it's not the dime mark that Tiger has in his Mizuno copy Titleist or Nike irons when it comes to the highest lofted club. It's almost an ellipse or almost an oval that kind of works out towards the toe because that's when because that's when they're going to play with face angle, play with handle height, which I don't think's talked about enough.
100%. Yeah, I like that tighter the lie. I like to get the handle up.
Ray Floyd.
At least get the bottom of the wedge flat so, that heel doesn't drag. Yeah, that's huge. And it also helps with the VSP, to kind of keep the vertical swing plane a little bit more upright. Yeah, but if we know, going back to our original thing, Sinclair is the first one that talked about, he never said why at the time. He's just like, what I've noticed when I've tested the greatest tour database in the world of all these, major winners is anytime they launch it between 27 and 30, it seems to go the right distance. So success leaves clues and breadcrumbs, right? It's okay, let's figure out how to make that happen, right? So then we dig into the mechanics and all the stuff that we now know that's important. And these guys aren't chipping with gap wedges.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we're losing spin loft, right? It's That's the other question. Why don't you just do this with a pitching wedge? Because then you got to explain spin loft to them and they go, it's not going to work. It's not going to be able to stop. Because everybody wants to hit that low checker. I get it every day. It's teach me how to hit that one that stops real quick. I'm okay, here's the guts. Can we do it? But yeah.
Spent some time with Bender back in the day. And Zach Johnson's a little older than me. I think he's in between you and I, basically. He was at Drake. He's probably leaving college as I was getting into it. But anyways, down in Lake Mary, Florida, definitely spent some time down there. I believe he was the number one player on the nationwide tour, honestly, when I was around. And he had this is for the viewers and listeners out there, he had an undone piece of wire, almost like a coat hanger that you'd get at the dry cleaner. he would have electrical tape. So it didn't, and he put it in the drain hole of the grip, right? So that obviously would mean the handle would be forward. And then what they did, again, because I'm pretty positive that Mike, the last time I saw Bender, he was still using the same camera that I witnessed when I was 22 years old watching him, like shadowing him, right? Yeah. So anyways.
Casio.
Yeah, exactly.
They all had a
great camera, right?
Yeah, great camera.
So he's got the kind of point the grip at the hip with the wire. And what they did is they put a kind of a 10 feet, I'm guesstimating, 10 feet high, kind of like a clothesline about 10 feet away. And then Zach would just launch his wedges under that. And TrackMan existed, but not everybody had one. So I'm watching this in 03, 04, and this guy is the number one player on the then nationwide tour. And I'm watching him just knock flag sticks out of the hole. And I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that. And I'm not telling people to do that. So
he has an interesting way to do it, though.
Yes.
Yeah, he has. Because I spent a little time. I was at the PGA. I think it was like Teacher of the Year thing that the PGA puts on every year. A few years back, it wasn't that long ago. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And Bender was one of our guys. We'd do like little stations, right? And I was just picking his brain about Zach, and I'm like, how much down do you think he hits? And he would play the ball way back.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, his path was like 10 degrees in to out. And of course he'd get way up on top of it and then spin around and lean the crap out of it and hit it really low. That's not exactly the way we're teaching it now, but he was obviously really, really good at it. The cut bias, draw bias. I used to be really draw bias with my guys, like with hitting these shots, but now I'm kind of getting more neutral to even little cutty if you need a little bit more down.
Ball comes off slower if the club face is open to the path.
Yeah. So it's like, if anything, he's made us think about some things, right? It's like anytime I see something, I'm like, I've talked to Joe and we're friends and I compare notes like, hey, we're sort of teaching the same things. And I think we're very, very similar. But you just go back to the math, right? It's like if we had a 60-degree wedge, we're trying to launch it at 30. We're trying to deliver 45 degrees of dynamic loft into the ball. I mean, where are we getting those 15? We're not leaning this back here, right? So there's got to be some shaft lean. It's probably some friction stuff going on. But I mean, if you think about it that way, like sort of makes more sense of how to do it.
The first time I ever saw it in person without measuring it, again, TrackMan very new, is one of the best things that when I was mentoring with Suddy is whoever he was teaching, every golf lesson always ends on the course. So then he would go, do you want to play with him? And I'm like, yeah. So it'd be like Paul Azinger, right? So we're on the first hole of the Talon course at Twin Eagles. And I was pretty happy that I outdrove Paul, right? We just spent 4 hours and I was running TrackMan brand new and all that kind of stuff, the big one in the suitcase and all that. And earlier in the day, he told me TrackMan doesn't know how to drive the ball. He does. And then I said, judging by last week's driving statistics, I'd say you don't. But anyways, I was excited to hit up at my ball and outdrive Paul on the first hole. Well, anyways, didn't much matter because there was a short partial wedge in. And then Paul hits it, right? It is the lowest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life, right? And it goes, honest to God, you want to hook me up to a lie detector test. I thought he bladed it. Honest to God, thought he bladed it. And the damn thing hits just short, takes one hop and freezes next to the hole. Okay. So he looks at me and he goes, they should put a plaque near that divot. And I look down and I go, what divot? You didn't take one. And so I let a few holes go before I revealed how stupid I am. And then I go, Paul, that shot on one. I go, honestly, I thought you bladed it, man. And he goes, and we both had wedges in again. And this is why I'm talking to him. And he goes, you don't know what the hell you're doing with that thing, do you? And I go, well, Paul, I honestly paid for my college based on my ability to wedge it, chip it, and putt it. And he goes, without missing a beat, he goes, must have been a shitty college.
Yeah, he was never one for mincing words, he'll tell you how it is.
He's the best. Yeah. And then he said, and this has been said before, but he said to me, he goes, Jake, when you're playing darts, you don't throw it at the fucking ceiling, hoping to hit the board.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, good. All right, go show me how you did that, right? So I I had spent all day running the new technology, quote unquote, of the Orange Box TrackMan with him, telling him what that was telling me. But then as the sun was setting, a la high school golf, he's telling me how to hit a wedge. And it was so fucking cool. And I never spent much time around Lee Trevino or something, but it reminded me of what I would hear about Trevino's burning wedge, right? And I was sitting there going, this is cool. And then, and then finally we learn all this stuff. And I put my wedge on TrackMan.
Those guys were shut-faced guys.
Right. And I put my wedge on there and don't know any of these numbers yet because we were told TrackMan was for club fitting. 42 degrees.
Yeah. That's great.
Damn thing coming right back at me.
Lob shot.
Yeah. Fantastic.
And and we're not saying that this one shot, but like I always say, like, let's build our short game off of a baseline shot. That's why I don't get guys hitting bumping rounds on the ground anymore. It's like we simplify it by being able to hit sort of the same window, know how it's going to feel coming out. And it's just a matter of hitting your landing spots. And as soon as you kind of think of it that way, it just simplifies everything. I don't got to worry about hitting what four wedges am I going to figure out to hit here? I mean, you're going to maybe two, right? And then maybe chip one heel off the ground or something if you're off the edge or something crazy. But for the most part, you got one or two shots. You got a variation of releases, right? And it's not that hard. And these guys are so talented. So once you show them how to do it, it's ridiculous how good they can do.
The people that hit one shot, one release, and change the club are ultimately limiting their ability to acquire skill, Yeah,
100%. But I mean, I don't got any guys, I didn't say any guy. I maybe got one guy that's more than 10 down. But I'd say most of my guys are running in there about 6 to 9.
Yeah.
6 to 9 is kind of like McGirt's like a 7 or 8 guy.
Yep. 6
when
to 8.
I first started with him,
I was going to say 6 to 8.
He was 2 or 3 because he doesn't have a ton of shaft lean, but chips it really, really good now because he knows kind of what he's doing. But he always thought steep was bad, like coming up through, the tour years ago. And he goes, as soon as I understand what you're telling me, and he's like, I can't get steep enough. And it's never going to be more than probably 10 on a rare occasion, but he kind of rolls in there about 7 or 8.
And everybody bases this off of not what they're measuring, but how the club interacts with the ground, which is a different discussion, right?
100%.
So the amateurs listening to this say steep is when they stick the club in the ground. May or may not be the case.
No, usually they're too shallow. Usually They're dumping their wrist, or they're coming from the inside too much, or they're coming from the outside and dumping their wrist and backing the low point up. That's the problem.
You're on the razor's edge when you're doing that, to say the least. So,
yeah. You want to move on?
Yeah.
What else you got?
Well, I've got a ton of notes about so for those, they're sideways on up there.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we may not love golf, Jason, but we do love movies.
Yes, we do.
And we named the show after this. And I got to talk, well, there he is. There's a great head of hair right there from Thomas Hayden Church. And I like a guy with a great head of hair. So do you remember the show Wings?
Yeah, I didn't watch it a ton. I know, but that's what made him, that was his Apex Mountain, basically.
Right.
Aside from maybe this one, but I mean, it's interesting how his career mirrors the character he's playing in Sideways.
Yes.
Because he was an actor, then he went and he just started doing commercials, narration commercials, and voiceovers.
Yeah, Will Arnett from Arrested Development basically had a damn fine career just being the voice of Ford truck, right?
Yeah.
So exactly. Thomas Hayden Church, I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch a ton of Wings, but was an idiot on that show. So here's the beauty of Sideways to me. All right. I'm going to classify. All right. What's your wine handicap? What do you think you are? Give me it. Be honest. No sandbagging here.
Yeah, honestly, I'm no expert by any means. I'd say I'm a 5.
Have you seen the movie Psalm or Psalm 2?
Yes.
Fantastic. I learned so much just from watching that.
Yeah. That makes me feel like a beginner when you watch something like that. Right. That's what I'm saying. I know what experts look like, and I talked to some other people, the Psalms from really top restaurants. No shot. I got nothing. Yeah. But I am a +5 drinker. Okay. So, yeah. But I mean, as far as the knowledge of it, I got the basics, and I enjoy, again, I'm fascinated with how they make it and the whole thing. But yeah, it's, that'll make you feel really, really
I did
stupid.
go out to Napa, and now it's kind of a regular thing, but I'm going to say this about Sideways, and I got a bunch of things that I took from Sideways and related it to golf because...
Perfect. Let's go through it.
Something that we talked about is that we're not 100% sure any movies really encapsulated golf, but there's been a lot of other great movies, River Runs Through It, stuff like that, which you could put golf in it and it would have been the same movie essentially. So interesting thing about this. So yeah, I watched a little bit of Wings, not a lot. I was a Seinfeld guy, but Thomas Hayden Church on Wings was a character named Lowell, and he was an idiot. And actually, I didn't think one of the better characters on the damn show, right? And then Paul Giamatti was in like kids movies, always as like the bad guy. He was also Tiger Woods's head cover's voice. I hated Paul Giamatti.
Oh,
I didn't think he was any kind of... So when I saw Sideways, because I knew the director, right?
Yeah. You want to take, like, for people that haven't seen the movie, do you want to sort of give them the overview of the story and like give them the narrative, and then we can go through the different categories or whatever and scenes?
Perfect. And the funniest thing is what I realized when we talked about movies the last time we were on the pod, which is kind of what this became, was that kids, which means anyone younger than us, kids don't watch movies. So they heard
None of my juniors watch movies.
None of them. They watch fucking TikTok or YouTube Shorts. They don't watch movies. So I had a lot of young coaches after the pod with you going, you know, I popped in, well, no one's popping in. They pull up or stream. They stream Searching for Bobby Fischer and shit like that, which will definitely be a movie we do. All right.
Legends of the Fall.
Legends of the Fall. Right. So, so synopsis, Sideways. God, it's such a beautiful movie. It actually is one of my favorites. And I totally get if somebody younger than us, because I'm still young, that it's too slow for the first 45 minutes.
Yeah, the first hour is not the best, but it does pick up after that.
So Paul Giamatti essentially he's a loser. All right. So, I mean, he is. He lives in an apartment. He steals from his mother. He is depressed. He is an alcoholic, but it's masked in this beautiful knowledge that he has about the alcohol that he is drinking. Right. And then the funniest thing is his buddy, who seems to have it more together than him, just like the movie Swingers, actually doesn't have it that much together. So anyways, so Giamatti is Miles, and Thomas Hayden Church, which is one of the great characters ever, is Jack. And Jack is getting married. So his best friend, Miles...
They were college roommates.
And they're going to go to wine country. So one has one expectation of what this, it's like a bachelor party, but not really. It's like this bachelor getaway. Like Miles or Giamatti has one expectation of what that's going to be. And Thomas Hayden Church has a completely other expectation of what's going to be. Miles thinks he's going to be drinking all this wonderful wine in this wonderful country, which does happen.
Yep.
And Jack's there for the fucking. Okay? Yeah. So he's there to sell his wild oats before he says, I do. So he's cruising, right? He's looking around for what he can stick and move. So anyways, the beauty of this is, one, they are two opposite people, and yet you totally buy that they're best friends. You totally get it. You get actually why they need each other. Jack's an out-of-work actor, and Miles is an out-of-work writer who's always saying he's going to be published, but isn't.
Yeah, he's written a novel that during the movie doesn't, like, he hears a couple times from his agent or his publisher that it doesn't happen. But him and Jack are both Jack's telling everybody that he's a published author to make him sound better. You can kind of tell that they hadn't seen each other in a while, right? Because when it all goes sideways with, no pun intended, with Miles, his new love interest, Maya, she's like, he was just my roommate in college. You know, it's like, I'm not Jack, right? Because he's like completely the opposite, just trying to sleep with every girl that he finds in Napa, which is not a lot. Sandra Oh's a diamond in the rough in that area, right? But Virginia Madsen was fantastic in this, though. I'm trying to think.
What do you think of Virginia Madsen? What do you think about her?
I thought she was, for that time, this movie is 2004. So
right. Young people, don't Google it now. Google Virginia back in 2004.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, I think she was very attractive. Great actress.
Yeah.
Right. But she found her sort of mate there with.
Are you buying that she would ever go for Giamatti?
Not in real life. No, not at that time. Like, he was.
Been published.
They just made him out. Right. They just made him out to. I mean, he's, the guy's wearing pleated pants and he looks dumpy. I mean, we got to talk about how bad the golf scenes were, right?
Oh, that's the best.
I mean, come on, Giamatti. Like, can you take a few lessons before we shoot this movie? Like, I mean, guy couldn't even make contact. I mean, Thomas Hayden Church wasn't much better.
No.
I mean, he hit it 3 miles to the right on his first tee shot. But there is some kind of funny moments when the guys hit into him and he goes nuts and like starts running at the carts.
Most of the notes that I made are actually about the golf scene. And this is why I can't stand
It's not the most rewatchable scene,
No.
but it's like, it's so funny because it's like, are you kidding me? What are these guys doing?
I'm just going to fire him out at you. Miles seems like a guy who would be late to his tee time. That's the first thing that I wrote.
Oh, yeah.
And that's actually not from the golf scene. It's from the beginning of the movie where he took forever to get it because he's hungover, right?
Oh, I love it. Yeah. He's like, I'm coming. I'm right there. Like he wasn't even out of bed yet. And I'm supposed to pick him up.
Miles and Jack remind me of Trent and Mikey from Swingers, which I told you about. Get your bones smooched is something I'm going to be saying more.
Yeah. You could reference the joint. Get your joint, your joint or something. Yeah. There's a lot of
your crank.
Your crank. That's what it was. Not joint. Yeah. Get your crank. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
I wrote down the swing advice from the
here
scene.
We go. Here we go.
Sit back in your heels and turn through your abdomen.
Yeah, but it's all the funniest part is like he's standing like right on top of him. Right. And he's talking as he's getting ready to hit and during his swing. And he's like, would you just shut up? Just shut up. He's like, why? Why are you so tense? And like he's literally, he's like the dad telling his son like what to do as he's pulling the trigger. But he was standing right on top of him.
It's completely like literally this reminded me of every driving range I've ever been on. It's literally is the blind leading the naked, right? So his next piece of advice. So we have sit back in the heels.
Swing tips.
Here's the swing tips from the movie Sideways. Sit back in the heels, turn through the abdomen. Next piece of advice, don't come over the top.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yes, don't do it.
Stay still.
Yeah.
It's all about silence and inner quiet.
Oh, my God.
And then the last thing I have to put. All right.
Yeah.
And I will ask you, and then I will tell you, have you ever been in a group? Obviously, you've been in a group that got hit into. Have you ever been in a group where someone hit back at the group behind you?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's happened for me.
Yeah. I don't think I've definitely been hit into before, but I don't think I've ever had anybody hit back at. And here's the funny thing is like, that's the best swing he made the whole movie. Like he flushes it, like he kind of thins it, but like hits it right at the guy's cart.
So Jason,
nothing like the first golf swing that he made.
Jason, you're telling me no one, you or anyone you've ever played with, has ever returned fire?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
I don't remember it. Yeah, if it was like when I was like a kid, like a junior golfer or something. I don't remember ever.
Okay, so this happened during COVID. And I almost got taken out. I have a large head. I mean, like I can, it's a good target. And many have tried. Many men wish death upon me, as 50 Cent said. So it happened again, probably the second time, maybe the third time. I don't recall. We play a lot of drinking games when we play. So in the middle of the 18th fairway, I had it. I'm over my ball in the fairway, and the ball hopped short of me and then went over me. So I was in so it's like, all right, like that. So I'm playing with the GM of the golf course. And I can't say the GM or the golf course because they're both still there. But anyone that knows me knows who it is and where I was. So the GM is pissed, right? I'm just sitting there going, hey, thank God that didn't get buried in my, cranium. So he takes it, he tees it up, he turns back at them and he fires it. And by God, it was the best shot he hit all day. That fucking thing went right at their golf carts. Yeah. And then, do you remember in Sideways where Jack, he runs at him.
He starts running at him. He's swinging his club around. Yeah, yelling like a madman.
So I'm not sure. We'll call this person Mike.
Okay.
I'm not sure this Mike ever saw the movie Sideways, but he pulled up his sleeves like this and started coming and told them. So they got in their carts, right? And they're driving. And he's telling them, and he's running towards the cart path, telling them to come. and these guys go right past him. So he's running after him. It is like the T-1000 in the movie Terminator 2. Like he's jumping and trying to like hold on and trying to get it.
Oh my
They
God.
go straight to the parking lot. By the way, Mike kind of rolls off like the T-1000 off the golf cart.
Yeah.
Again, Mike. That may or may not be his name.
Sure.
But anyways, it's just another white guy anyways. But they go straight to the parking lot and they screech out of the parking lot as he's still like, running after him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was during COVID. So I can see why so many people took up golf during COVID. I mean, if I would have saw that, that looks pretty fucking cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that is
That's
100%.
hilarious.
Those that were there know that is 100% of true freaking story.
Oh my gosh.
I was in awe. Like one, if they would have got out of the cart, now I am involved. I have to support my friend. But the other
What
thing
are you
is,
going to do?
well,
See you in
I
a fight.
was